So, you want to bag your BMW E34. Hello and welcome to another video, guys. So, today we have a very rare car actually. This is what we call the E34 Touring. Okay, wagon. Touring means wagon or hatchback or yun nga, mas preferably known as the wagon. The Touring na E34 is actually very rare because you don't really see much touring cars here in the Philippines, especially at this age ng BMW na ito. This BMW is actually most commonly seen as a sedan version. Yung mga coupe nila din or yung sedan nga version nila. So, that is just a quick trivia for this car, but as you can see, it's bag slammed to the floor with some original, authentic ALPINA wheels on Michelin Pilot Sports, gorgeous car. So shout out kay Sir Tom, the owner of this car, and Detail Manila for, you know, this wonderful work. Naka-ceramic coat to, restored yung kotse, and it is actually, yes, on air suspension na. It's done, it's here, and we're going to discuss on how we did this car and how it looks. Okay? There are some limitations on this car. As we can see, it's a fairly old unit. So sourcing out coilovers or other types of parts for this car was a difficult task kasi luma na yung kotse. But regardless, being that this car is quite, you know, aged, ang ganda ng kotseng to. The interior is well intact. The way you open the doors and the way it closes is actually... Yung previous owner nito kept this car on a mint condition. Okay? So, lucky new owner, Sir Tom, and congratulations! Your car is now bagged, part of Fitment, and we're going to discuss the under chassis of this car. If you want to know more about how to bag this car, like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for a notification. I will be needing your ears. Lend me your ears and your time as we discuss the front suspension, rear layout of the car, and overall. Okay? Stay tuned. We're going to be discussing technical details about this car. We'll be going to that right about now. Hello and welcome to the front suspension ng E34 Touring natin na BMW. Right out of the bat, we have a very peculiar front suspension assembly. This is actually a old classic McPherson strut. So, hindi siya wishbone suspension. As you can see, wala naman siyang wishbone sa harap natin rather. Pag kumabig ang manibela nito, or when the steering wheel turns, the whole assembly rotates on that axis of the pillow ball or the shock mount itself, up there. So, this is typical for McPherson struts. And one thing I can say about this car naman is, it's actually very spacious. Wala naman tayong problema sa clearances for the E34. We are using our standard fat bag dito. So, this is actually full-size na air suspension bags. Okay, double bellow, standard, around lift capability, kaya niya gantong kalaki for this car, mataas. Nothing much to discuss sa unahan. Let's go to the rear where it's actually very interesting, okay? Summary, McPherson strut, weird type of strut, very rare parts na nitong E34 Touring, especially for this age ng kotseng ito. Okay, let's go to the backside of the car. Hello and welcome to the rear suspension of this BMW E34 Touring. As you can see, we actually used something different. We actually used a single bellow. Okay? Kasi lahat ng bags namin na para dito ay hindi pasok. Ito lang ang pasok natin. The single bellow airbag na ito. Ang isang maganda sa airbag na ito rin ay it's actually long enough and yung length, overall length niya, yung height niya rather, is enough for this strut. Something to note about this suspension strut ng E34 Touring sa likod is that it's really tall. From here to there, up above, parang nasa ano tayo, 2 feet yung kanyang height itself. So, yung strut nito, yung pinaka-shafting, the shaft of this car's rear suspension is really big. Bigger than my fingers na ito. It's way up there. So, we can't use our standard bags because hindi kaya ng strut. Hindi kaya niya itaas yung strut. Okay? It's too short. And another reason is, kita nyo to, sobrang sikip po. This barely fit. Okay? Saktong-sakto lang to, sobrang sikip nito. So, the single bellow strutted bag is actually perfect for this application and kaya naman niya. Actually, this bag is the perfect size for this. Kaya, yun lang naman. It's very difficult to put double bellows on this one. As much as we can, we use double bellow bags kasi they're very, very easy to preset. When you're presetting a height, they actually are very linear. This type of bags, hindi siya linear in a sense na medyo erratic siya pag nagpi-preset. Pag wala kang height sensors, mahirap siyang i-preset actually, yeah. Pero if the car is heavy enough, you'll reach the pressure na naka-unroll na lahat ng bags. We'll talk about that soon on a separate video. Pero just remember na this bag is perfect for this car kasi napakaliit ng pader, napakahaba ng strut, and that is actually the purpose of these types of bags. So yun lang naman. Another thing to note is, kung napansin nyo, hindi tayo divorce sa likod. Okay? Technically, old cars like these, they tend to, be married yung shocks and yung spring natin, which is pabor sa amin kasi we won't be able to, hindi na namin kailangan i-worry yung pagka-divorce ng suspension. Everything's linear, everything's straight up to the shocks itself. And yun lang naman ang kailangan natin i-discuss dito sa likod ng ating touring. Okay? Small tower, very cramped space for the tower. Mas sobrang sikip. Basta medyo nahirapan kami dito. Overall, it's actually quite quirky and difficult to do. Pero nonetheless, we were able to do it for the client. Let's move on to the back side of the car where we discuss the system layout ng ating touring na ito. Welcome to the rear trunk layout ng ating BMW Touring. We actually have a hatchback kasi yeah, touring siya. Touring means wagon as well. So this is actually very rare. This type of car is rare kasi you don't see BMWs having this type of rear layout. Lagi sedan ang dumadating dito. Rarely you see a wagon na BMW here in the Philippines, yet alone an E34 Touring, so it's quite rare. So, that being said, we are actually meted with our space. Ang gusto ng may-ari dito is to maximize his space, and of course, to do that, you need to sacrifice the spare tire. So if we unroll this, everything, and we pull out this one, meron pa tayo isang layer, and ito yung spare tire dati. And of course, when we remove this, you will unveil the... So here's our system. Everything's snug underneath. So let's actually lean forwards to see. Okay, we are meted with our management system. We have a tank and two pumps. This is a dual pump setup. And here's our Fitment engineering management system with pressure sensor based leveling muna. But it's ready for height sensors if need be. So everything's just snugged here. This is actually the best space na pwede natin gawin to kasi yeah, ang priority ng may-ari is yung kanyang cargo space and it's a touring. Another reason ba't namin nilagay dito kasi syempre, since siya ay hatchback at saka wagon, pag nilagay mo sa taas yan, mabibing yung mga driver at saka yung passengers. Yung driver and passengers itself is ma-deafen, mabibingi sa compressors natin. Although dalawa yan, so it actually pumps fast, having it underneath will deaden the sound just a bit enough that it won't get annoying. Alam mo yan? So overall, yan lang naman yung trunk space natin. We were able to do it as OEM as possible. Okay? So balik natin para makita natin kung gaano tayo kalinis yung ating setup. So the owner did have to sacrifice the spare tire. Actually, the spare tire is right there. But he can always put the spare tire on top pag tapos na siyang gamitin kasi there is no choice. Air suspension has its drawbacks, and the drawbacks of air suspension is always space related kasi we can't fit it outside. There's no space to mount it outside. But nonetheless, if you can actually work around with the spare tire, just put your spare tire on top when you're going to a long drive, and that solves the problem. You can move around your spare tire, but you can't move around your system. Okay? Let's drop the car ngayon so we can actually discuss the conclusions for this E34 Touring. Okay? Let's go. Alright. So, welcome to the outro of the car. As you can see sa unahan, we have a traditional, okay, weird front McPherson's type strut sa unahan. And sa likod, we have a non-divorced married suspension. It is quite the headache to build because sobrang lapit at sobrang sikip ng clearances natin. Nonetheless, the wagon or the touring setup actually gave us a certain layout requirement kasi kailangan tahimik, space is a factor. So all of those things were discussed, nakita nyo naman, and the car dropped pretty well. Ngayon, before we discuss anything further, let's actually try to, show you the dynamics of the car and Okay? So, ang advantage ulit na stock suspension is that you can actually raise up the car really high sa unahan and sa rear. So, let's actually go to P1 first. Yung preset 1 niya, it's still tucked on the rear. P2 natin is yan. Okay, labas na yung goma sa likod. The E34 Touring and all other BMWs on this era until E90, they all have very big wheel wells. Okay, I'm saying that from E30 to E90, from a 1980s car to a 2010 car, lahat sila mababa yung, malaki yung wheel well. Pag bumagsak yung likod, talagang stuck siya. Fender to valve stem. Okay, yun yung drop niya, ganun kababa. Still racing up, as you can see. Okay, let's give it more time to charge up the pumps so we can actually lift the front even further. Okay, sa unahan, we have a good amount of clearance. We're actually more than 5-finger gap. Okay, we're around 6 fingers. But this car is not that low, so yeah. Okay, sa likod naman, let's try to raise it up. Oh yeah, by the way, habang nag-iintay tayo sa ating, sa ating compressors, we'll actually discuss the wheels ng kotse because this is actually one of its key highlights. This is an ALPINA OEM wheel. Okay, ALPINA is like the top-of-the-line version of the BMW. It's like an aftermarket na authorized aftermarket builder ng BMW. It's like AMG, like that, of Mercedes-Benz back in the day. So this is an ALPINA wheel. It's an 18x8 sa unahan, 18x8.5 sa likod, staggered. We have some 225s, Michelin Pilot Sport sa unahan. Sa likod naman, we have 235s sa 8.5. So all square layouts. So yeah, really nice wheel, really rare wheels and expensive wheels, I'm sure. So ito naman yung race up sa likod. Okay, as you can see, mas malaki yung wheel arch sa unahan ng kotse than sa likod. As you can see here, sobrang laki nitong wheel well na to and sobrang depressed nung arc. Kasi nga, these cars, there's no steering wheel sa likod, so it doesn't matter for them back in the day. So ito yung drop niya ito yung maximum lift natin sa likod. Around 2.5 or 3 fingers. Okay? So ganun kalaki yung difference from a 3 finger sa likod to a 6 finger sa harap. And now, let's actually drop the car. That's a lot of pressure talaga. Alright. As you can see nga pala, let's assess the elephant in the room. Ito na yung sagad ng unahan. I cannot modify the shock mount even further kasi ito na talaga yung sagad na ibibigay ng ating kotse. This will be, dito magpa-factor in yung rarity of this car's parts kasi wala na tayong makitang coilovers nito. Dahil kakaiba yung shocks. As you can see dun sa discussion natin, nakakabit sa preno yung shocks nito. So you really have to find specific, okay, coilovers for this car, or meron bang coilovers nito? I don't know. That was our problem. But ang problema ko dito is I wanted the gap a bit more, like 15mm more, or sa pandaliring ibaba niya, pantay na sana yung kotse. But that is the limitation of the car. So yeah, that is the E34 Touring. There's nothing much to discuss. This gem is actually really fresh. As I've told you, this is actually really rare to see a Touring at this era. Ang ganda pa, ang linis ng coaching to for its age. It's actually in the level ng W123 na ginawa natin, although 70s yung 123 na Mercedes-Benz, but nonetheless, it's an 80s car. So it's nice to see old cars in tip-top shape. So there you have it. So you want to bag your BMW E34 Touring. This is how. If your car is in the E30 series, this is one of those cars na nag-share ng architecture ng BMW. So you should actually see. Okay, I know this video won't get a lot of traction because not a lot of cars or not a lot of owners or not a lot of people own this car, I understand. But still, we still do the catalog for our sake. If you watch this video, thank you. If you value the car, thank you. You have a taste for cars. But that's going to be it. There's nothing much to discuss for this car and there's nothing much to discuss at all. We also did our final check na this will be our goodbye for the car as the owner will do more stuff to this car. And I hope you enjoy, Sir Tom. So, congratulations in advance. And I hope to see you in a bit. He's actually coming over. So yeah, that's going to be it for now. Thank you for watching. It's been Cal from Fitment Engineering. And you're watching Fitment TV. So you want to bag your car. What's next? I don't know. The catalog keeps growing. I'll see you soon on the next video.